Since the Byzantines occupied Serbian coasts and founded the so-called Dalmatian Thema, they appointed a strategist based in Zadar. Strategos. The prefect of Croats, Domagoj, did not want to approach the Byzantines. He was on the side of the Serbs, so the Byzantines overthrew him in 867 and appointed one of their henchmen, Sedeslav, in his place. The Arabs then held southern Italy and Sicily. In order to expel Arabs from Italy, the Byzantine Emperor Basil I and the Frisian Emperor Ludwig II made an alliance against the Arabs. For that war, Byzantium was supposed to send naval forces and Frisians ground forces. They took part in that war with the Byzantines, and ships of Serbian coastal towns and Sedeslav's Croats were sent to Fruscan land forces, although they were under Byzantine rule. The only Serbs on the coast who managed to repel the Byzantine and Venetian attacks until then were the people of Neretva. When the allied war against the Arabs began, the Neretvians sided with the Arabs. While the allies besieged the Arab fortress of Bari in Italy, the Neretvians with their naval forces liberated a part of Dalmatia from Byzantines and Venetians. And in order to take revenge on Sedeslav's Croats, they captured a large number of them with the intention of selling them as slaves and plundered their villages. Bari fell on February 2nd, 871, and the Arabs were then expelled from Italy. The two allied emperors then turned all their forces against Serbs of Neretva. They defeated them with joint forces, forced them to release the captured Croats and return all their booty. Then the Byzantines and Venetians occupied the Neretva coast, and then together with the Frisians looted the Neretva towns and villages. Until that time, the people of Neretva refused to accept Christianity, and then Emperor Vasily brought priests and forcibly baptized them, as well as a part of Croats who had not yet accepted Christianity. At that time, the Frisians occupied Istria, which until then has been province of Serbia. Shortly before that, the Croats in western Pannonia fell under the rule of Fruška. After the death of Emperor Ludwig II of Fruška, these Croats fell under the rule of Emperor Ludwig of Germany in 879. In the same year, the Nin perfect Sedeslav was killed by a certain Branimir who appropriated his county position. Sedeslav was in fact an ordinary Byzantine official whose main duty was to collect taxes for Byzantium. Branimir, on the other hand, intended to create his own independent principality. As Bishop of all Croats died that year, a deacon from Nin, Theodosie, used it to become the new bishop. Theodosie agreed with Branimir. With the two of them, in order to become what they want, they asked for help from Pope of Rome. Since the church in Dalmatia was under the administration of the Patriarch of Constantinople, the Pope gladly accepted this offer and ordained Theodosius bishop. Thus, the new bishop for the Croats was under the administration of the Pope of Rome and not under the administration of split archbishop, and that is the beginning of the religious separation of Croats from Serbs. After that, the prefect Branimir strives to create his own special state and special Croatian territory. It was not easy because the Croats did not have their own special territories until then, and the Serbs were not willing to cede their land to them to create a Croatian state in Serbia. Croats began to plunder the land of the neighboring Serbs and coastal towns in their neighborhood. Since the cities were under Byzantium, they complained to Emperor Basil, and as he was busy with a war in the east, he advised the cities to pay taxes, and they paid him to Branimir, and thus achieved peace until he ended the war in the east. At the same time, the leader of the Pannon Croats, Kocelj, who was under rule of Frusans, attacked the Serbs in Posavina and today's Banija. In that attack, Kocelj was defeated and killed. Then a certain Gostumil appeared in Pannonia as the ban of Croatian parishes. Branimir died in 891, failing to create his own state. The Croatian bishop of Nin at the time was Alfred. The people of Neretva expelled the Byzantines and Byzantians from the land in 887. Byzantium was occupied by the war in the east, so its ally, the Venetian Doge Pietro Candiano, fought against the Neretvians. In a battle near the island of the Saint Michael, the people of Neretva defeated the Venetians, and the Doge Candiano died there in 888. After Branimir, Muchimir came for the new Croat prefect, and then his brother Krešimir, but none of them remained too long. Finally, Miroslav, the son of the Serbian Ban of Zahumlje, Mihailo, captured Nin and proclaimed himself the new prefect in 911. This put an end to the attempt to separate the Croats from Serbia, leaving them with only their bishop in Nin. Even at that time, no one considered Croats to be the same people as Serbs, nor did anyone call them Slavs. Thus, Pope John the Eighth wrote to Dalmatian bishops around 880, urging them to place themselves under his rule and telling them not to fear the Greeks or the Slavs, because he would protect them as he protected the Croats. One of the Serbian nobles who stood out at that time was Mihailo Višević, 910 to 930, Ban of Zahumlje. Soon after coming to that position, he extended his power to the Principality of Trebinje, to Duklja and the entire area of Neretva. He is also referred to as Duke of Slavonia and Duke of Serbia. In fact, Mihail's banovina spread on the territory of the original Serbia. The successor of Gostomil, the ban of Croatian parishes in Pannonia, was a certain Pribun. The Hungarians are from 907, they began to conquer the Pannonian Croats, so that Pribun had to flee from Pannonia. He then came to Dalmatia, killed the prefect Miroslav, and proclaimed himself the leader of the Dalmatian Croats. Since he was previously under the rule of Fruška, Pribun wanted to be Frisian vassal again. The Byzantines, under whose rule the Dalmatian Croats were, did not agree. They expelled Pribun, and in 914 they appointed Tomislav in his place, but not as the prefect of the Croats, but as the toparch of the Byzantine toparchy. They gave him the honorary title of proconsul. As a Byzantine toparch, Tomislav was given control of a wider zone in Dalmatia, including the coastal towns opposite of that zone, so that in his toparchy there were more Serbs than Croats. The coastal towns involved retained their former self-government. In fact, there were no changes to these cities. They were already under Byzantine rule. The change was only in the personality of the manager, the toparch. Encouraged by this new situation, because their leader has also become the Byzantine proconsul, the Croats in 990 introduced the Serbian liturgy in a Nin bishopric with the Latin way of service and the Glagolitic alphabet. At that time, there were 3 ways of church service in Dalmatia. Serbs used Serbian language and Srbica, free cities used Greek service in Greek or Latin, and Croats served in Serbian but with Glagolitic. Living separately for a long time under the protection of Byzantium, which was the extension of Roman state traditions, free cities in Dalmatia developed a special form of Latin Serbian culture with strong Greek influence. Feeling quite powerful, Tomislav aspired to become an independent ruler and free himself from Byzantine rule, trying to find support somewhere on the other side. That is why, in 923, he addressed Pope John X with a request to send him legates who would regulate church relations in his toparchy. The Pope immediately sent 2 of his legacies and sent letters to Tomislav and his neighbor Mihailo Višević, who is mentioned here as the Duke of Serbia, and to other nobles, inviting them to the church council in Split in 925. Of the invited nobles, only Tomislav and Mihailo came, and next to them came representatives of all 3 church groups from the then Dalmatia. Dalmatian towns, Serbs and Croats. The council was led by the papal legates, and the main decision they imposed was ban on the use of Serbian language and script in a church, including Glagolitic alphabet. Neither Mikhailo Višević nor any of the Serbs accepted the decisions of that parliament. Tomislav sided with the papal legates, adopted the decisions of the parliament, and introduced a ban on the use of Serbian language.